As China's military power has grown, more and more people have begun to believe that China's conventional military power has surpassed Russia's. However, in the military ranking released by Global Firepower in January 2023, China is still ranked third, and Russia is ranked second. China's advantages. As a matter of fact, as far as the current state of military development of China and Russia is concerned, the military strength of these two countries has its own advantages. China's advantages are reflected in informationization, modernization, and the size and organization of its armed forces. In addition, in the area of electronic warfare, the PLA's tactics of electronic shielding, electronic suppression, and electronic deception have also developed rapidly. Compared with the Russian army has not shown a strong informatization advantage in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Not only can it not suppress the command and communication of the Ukrainian army, but even its own command has also relied on civilian mobile phones. In the modernization of weapons and equipment, the gap between the Chinese and Russian armed forces is even more obvious. Taking fifth-generation fighters as an example, the current number of Su-57 fighters in the Russian army is only a few in total, which is simply not enough to support a war. And China already has 200 fifth-generation fighters, J-20, in service, forming a considerable scale. Moreover, China's carrier-based fifth-generation fighter J-35 is also about to come out, and the air gap between China and Russia will be even greater. In terms of Navy, the strength of the Chinese Navy completely surpasses that of the Russian Navy. The large warships currently used in Russia were all made during the Soviet era. Russia has built only 4,000-ton frigates. China currently has 3 aircraft carriers, and the total number of Type 055 and 052D destroyers has reached 30, and their number continues to increase. In terms of the size of the army, China's regular army is more than twice that of Russia, and the gap in the size of reservists is even greater. China currently has tens of millions of registered militia and reservists, which is less than 1% of the Chinese population. However, if Russia were to send tens of millions of people to join the army, it would already be 1/10 of its population. Therefore, if China joins the army according to the proportion of 1/10, the size of its troops can reach 100 million. China had hundreds of millions of militias in the 70s, when China's total population was about 900 million. At present, the Chinese population has exceeded 1.4 billion, and it is very possible that the size of the army will exceed 100 million. The most important thing is that the Chinese military is extremely well organized. China has always attached importance to the ideological and cultural building of the armed forces, and has strived to achieve the integration of the military and the people. Therefore, the PLA will still have an extremely high degree of organization in the face of heavy losses. In terms of organizational construction, the Soviet army still had political commissars during World War II, but this political commissar system was temporary and was abolished before the end of World War II. Now the ideological construction of the Russian army relies mainly on Orthodox priests. Russia's advantage. The superiority of the Russian army is mainly reflected in the strategic nuclear forces, strategic projection capabilities, strategic bombers, etc. With a huge nuclear arsenal left over from the Soviet era, Russia now has strategic nuclear forces that rival those of the United States. At the moment, China's reserves in terms of strategic nuclear forces are not good. The United States speculates that China has about 350 nuclear warheads, while Russia has about 1,700 nuclear warheads. The delivery of strategic nuclear weapons relies mainly on transport aircraft. Although China has 200-ton transport aircraft led by the Y-20, the number is still insufficient, only 40-50. Russia has about 80 Il-76 transport planes, in addition to dozens of An-22 and An-24 and other transport planes, and its transport capacity is much higher than that of China. In terms of bombers, China has the largest number of bombers in the world. But China only has H-6 series bombers in service. The H-6 series bombers are inferior to Russian bombers in terms of carrying efficiency and range. Although Russia has only about 10 Tu-160 bombers, Its actual combat range is more than 10,000 kilometers and can deliver nuclear weapons to any country in the world. The maximum range of the Chinese H-6 bomber is about 8,000 kilometers. After the bomb is mounted, its combat radius can only cover the Asia-Pacific region. Sino-Russian war potential. Russia's strategic nuclear forces, bombers, and transport aircraft are all products of the Soviet era. These weapons are outdated, and Russia itself does not have the capabilities to create weapons on a large scale. Most of the advanced weapons currently in use in China have been in service since the 21st century. China currently has one of the most advanced and large-scale military-industrial systems in the world. So, in a skirmish, it is possible for the Russian army to prevail over the PLA. And in a full-scale war, China's state apparatus will play a greater role. Therefore, China's war potential far exceeds that of Russia. In terms of modernization of weapons and equipment, the Chinese army still lags behind the US military. In the case that all three parties have strategic nuclear weapons, none of the three powers will choose to solve the problem through war. Therefore, we are only making a rough assessment of the military power mentioned in this video.